Let's get to the last team. Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl participant from the NFC, have a top 10 draft pick. And their rightful pick, at 30, not 31, because of Miami being stripped of their pick. So pick number 10, pick number 30. What's their ideal scenario?
First off, the way you said participant made it sound like such like a minor thing. Like they got a participation. The Super Bowl participant. They were there. They tried their best.
I realized sort of midway through the sentence that they didn't win it. So
yeah, so the NFC champs, but also Super Bowl participant. Their dream scenario, I think they don't have a lot of spots available, right? This was a good roster. They were the Super Bowl participant for a reason. They on offense, there's really like no starting role to get. Maybe guard, right. And Howie Roseman's not going to draft a guard in the first round. You can bank on that. He's also, they could use linebacker. Not going to draft a linebacker in the first round. You could bank on that. So I would try to be a little bit more realistic here. And with pick 10, I went with Lucas Van Ness, the Iowa edge rusher, because of just stylistically how Philadelphia builds their defensive lines. They like pocket pushers. They like guys who can collapse the pocket, guys with high-end juice. That is Lucas Van Ness. If you want a bull rusher in this draft class, he is the best one. So Lucas Van Ness, Iowa, and then the back end, first round, pick 30. We're going Brian Branch, the Alabama safety. I know he's falling with maybe his mediocre pre-draft testing, even if it was still like solid by safety standards. It wasn't. They call it well above average also. So he's just a damn good football player and an immediate impact football player at a position you lost. Good deal from this offseason, obviously, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving. So I think he seamlessly just fills that hole, and you run it back defensively with really no hiccups on that side of the ball.
Yeah, we've been disturbingly in lockstep with these. So this is where I wanted to put Jalen Carter as a dream scenario for the Eagles.
Like that is dreamy.
I think as long as we're dreaming here, Jalen Carter with the legal issues, with the crappy workout at the pro day. Let's say he's starting to slide. The Seahawks could absolutely pounce on him if they decide to pass. Like it's getting to 10 for Philadelphia. It's not crazy, and it would be obviously the dream for them. Like imagine being able to repair Jalen Carter with Jordan Davis as your sort of anchors, plus the rotation that they always have, like the edge rushers as well.
You're just 2021 Georgia defense, basically. That's you're them.
With Nakobe Dean behind you, like this is perfect. We're just recreating the best college defense of all time in the NFL. And then 30, we went with the same player. This was the one I thought might be a little bit too dreamy, like maybe even implausible that Brian Branch makes it this far, given how good he is, but yeah, getting him to come in, be your slot corner. They obviously retained both starting outside corners somehow in free agency. He can cover the slot, do the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson job essentially for them. And they've got some bodies able to replace what they lost at safety, but that would be perfect. Like that's the one spot where you look at probably both sides of the ball where you say there's an immediate, not necessarily every down starting position, but there's an immediate 700 snaps to be had at that spot.
Yeah, I love Brian Branch to them if he falls. Big if at this point. I do think his tape is better than pick 30. It is more of a value proposition, and I guess just a philosophical proposition at this point where he ends up landing. But he's in that realm of I don't have to worry. That we just talked about Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've drafted a good football player. He's not going to be Justin Gilbert. We're not going to be the 2014 Browns if I draft Brian Branch.
Right. Do you if you look at this pick number 10, the Eagles seem to have a draft, by the way, that is impossible for Eagles fans to like. Like I've yet to see a combination where Eagles fans have been happy with the two players they've emerged with. And I think maybe part of that is because the Eagles tend to have relatively unexciting, just sort of, future-proofing type drafts. Like we'll take a player we don't necessarily need or a guy that's going to come in and get 300 snaps as part of a D-line rotation, not, 800 as a dominant, every down guy. But at 10, they're going to have their choice of several defensive linemen, I would think.
Yeah, and I think Eagles fans aren't happy with any draft because one, it's just that's a tenet of being an Eagles fan is to be unhappy about every decision that's made. And two, it's you look at this roster, where are the needs? Well, the needs are positions that Howie Roseman is not going to draft. They drafted Cam Jurgens in second last year. Ideally, he's a center only. Maybe they play him at guard. Like, that's your one spot kind of on offense that you could address. You could maybe get a better slot wide receiver than Quez Watkins, but I think for what they do offensively, he's fine. You could use a linebacker, obviously, Nakobe Dean. They lost both their starters from a year ago. Nakobe Dean really like what you're hanging your hat on there. Could use another one, but that's for the third round. That's what that round is for. That's what third, fourth round picks are for. So there's really not a lot where you're looking at this roster and saying we have to address XYZ. And that's why, when Howie Roseman's in that position, well, he's just going to take valuable positions because that's how you build a team for long-term success.
One pick that Eagles fans do seem to love is the idea of drafting Bijan Robinson at number 10. Explain to me why that's not a good idea.
Well, I've said, I think we did that running back conversation. And I said, don't draft a running back to transform your running game. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to transform shit.
Right.
They are, top 2 or 3 running game in the NFL already. So he only, it's taking you to a level if you draft a Bijan Robinson that is scary. So pick 10, to me, it's a little rich, but he is awesome. If it's pick 30, I'm on board with that wholesale.
Oh, yeah.
If he's all the way there at the back end of the first round, or even if he's slipping and you want to move up just a little bit, I'm not opposed. But I do think with that pick 10, they're probably just not in a great spot. If they trade back from 10, though, well, we could be in the money. If they trade back and just keep loading up into picks, we could be seeing a Bijan Robinson in Eagles jersey, and I wouldn't hate it at all.
Yeah.
Now, would Roseman do it? TBD, but he drafted running back in the second. How much farther? And it was Miles Sanders, who wasn't, holding the candle to Bijan.
Right. I mean, I've been kind of talking about running backs drafted in the first round as a 2-part proposition. The first part being how high does the contract get in that slotted, rookie contract tiered system, and bottom of the top 10 is still fine. Like, number 10 overall is not an egregious contract for a running back if he turns out to be really good. So that part I think is cool. The second part is opportunity cost and what did you leave on the table by drafting a running back at that particular spot. That's where I think the Bijan spot gets more questionable. But I think you've also brought up a third point, which is definitely worth throwing in there as well, which is what do you need that running back to do? Like, if you need him to fix the running game, no, it's just a binary thing. Does he need to fix the running game on his own? Yes or no? If he does, don't make the pick. If he doesn't, now we can still talk because that's a different, like, all he needs to do is to add value to what's already good. So in this scenario, I think Bijan does actually tick 2 of the 3 boxes there. The contract isn't egregious. You don't need him to transform your run game. And then the only question is, what are you leaving on the table by drafting him? And that's where I think you still come down on the no side because, all right, in our dream or my dream scenario, you've got Jalen Carter sitting there, but even if you don't, you have a potentially impact defensive lineman. Okay, your defensive line is good already, but like that guy is probably going to make more of a difference to you than Bijan Robinson, and that's this year. Not even thinking about what happens when Brandon Graham finally does retire and Fletcher Cox retires, and it's about the next few years as well. So to me, it's a harder case to make when you look at the opportunity cost part of it.
And also, it's like, is he even better than Rashad Penny? Because Rashad Penny's the GOAT NFL running back as it stands right now. 5.7 career yards per carry, higher than anyone else in modern NFL history. So, is he comfortable being a backup? You're going to have to kick the tires and ask him that pre-draft because if he goes there, he's only there when Penny gets hurt in week 5.
I mean, look, I have a relatively crazy pre-draft take on Rashad Penny sitting there somewhere on video on Steve's camera, I think. So nobody is more invested in Rashad Penny being amazing.
We were both, right?
Right.
Remember that? We were both like, I said as a runner, I said he's better than Saquon as a runner.
Yeah.
But now Saquon was much, much better as a pass catcher and like all the other things about playing the position. But I was like, as a runner, this guy is unique. Like he was insane at San Diego State.
Right. And I said overall, I think he's a better player. So nobody is more invested in Rashad Penny going for 2,000 yards for the Eagles this year than I am. But
yeah.
Given his injury history, I think you probably got to say, at the very minimum, I would like a contingency plan there. And, alternatively, Bijan comes in, just becomes the workhorse. So, you put Bijan on that team, obviously I love the fit. But that's where I think it falls down is if you have to leave a Jalen Carter or, a Lucas Van Ness or a Tyree Wilson or whoever it is on the table to make that happen, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and especially this class, you have your full complement of picks after this, 62,
right,
94. Like, there's going to be a back there that's pretty awesome.
I mean, dude, yeah, what happens? Forget Bijan at 10. What happens if you come back, a round or two later and get a Zach Charbonnet in there? Like,
yeah,
that feels like it would be pretty damn good as well.
He's still going to rate, yeah.
All right, so that's why, if it was you and I, and in fact Howie, you're probably not drafting Bijan Robinson at number 10 overall. So sadly, Eagles fans are going to have to accept one of the drafts that makes you mad. Like, just deal with it. Yeah. You're making the team better. This is the best way forward. This is the way. That's what the Mandalorian would say.
Usually, I hate saying like, the appeals to authority, but Howie Roseman knows better than you. I'll just say, like, Howie Roseman's fucking good at this. Trust Howie Roseman. He knows better.
Yeah, he has a pretty good track record in the last couple of years of being right more often than he's wrong. And even the areas where he's been wrong, in hindsight, they do look like pretty good, process, picks.
Yeah, he's right in his process is more what I would say. He knows what he's doing process-wise.
Right.
Now, pure talent evaluation, they've obviously had some egregious misses over the years, but process is more what I'm saying. Like, he knows how to build an NFL roster.